This day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
To the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and forever.
Amen.
Sisters and brothers in Christ, first I want to thank you to come over here. I want to thank Robin and Steve who prepared this event to honor you guys. Thank you for everything you did, your good examples, your sacrifices, your love, how you spent your love, your life, your bodies, your souls. I want to thank your families as well for one purpose, to this country, USA. USA is blessed because we have like you guys. And you give us your testimony as a good example for us. Thank you for everything. And also, we pray for all your friends. They left this life to eternal life, especially your mom. Your mom, she has something else. She lived her life like Jesus. She hid herself, she had everything, and you was shocked, I think so, when you heard about her life.
Yes.
She's a hero. We're proud of her, we're proud of you guys. Thank you for everything. God bless you. God bless this country. God bless America. May the Holy Spirit always be upon this country to have a good people and a good witnesses and a good armies. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, as Father said, for your service and what you've done for our country, because I think it's very important to remember and to honor those that have gone before us to help us to be even the people that we are. You know, one of my favorite scriptures in Jeremiah is, the Lord, He knows the purpose that He has for us, to prosper us and to give us good health. And a lot of times we don't know what our purpose is and why we do the things we do early on in life, but as we look back, we see how God has been with us and how He's touched us. And even with our lives of service, how we're able to touch others and help them through a lot of difficult times in their life. So thank you again for all that you've done, and I thank my dear mother because even though I didn't know about her service life, I can look back and see her through that service, and it made her the person that she was and the mother. So, thank you. So we'll get started. So Veterans Day is November the 11th, coming up pretty soon. So we are celebrating today all of the veterans, and just to kind of give you a historical summary of Veterans Day. So on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, an armistice of temporary cessation of hostilities was declared between the Allied nations and Germany in the First World War, then known as the Great War, commemorated as the Armistice Day. Beginning the following year, November 11th, became a legal federal holiday in the United States in 1938. In the aftermath of the World War II and the Korean War, Armistice Day became Veterans Day, a holiday dedicated to the American veterans of all wars. So if we could all stand, that it's befitting that we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now Tony will bless us with a song. And I forgot, this is a replica, so it's not my mother's, but it is one of the.
You can all join me.
And it doesn't fit.
Well, it looks great. We're going to sing the national anthem.
Yes.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? All right.
Okay, so next up, I'm gonna have Steve tell us a little bit about his time in the service. He was in the U.S. Army Vietnam
I'm just
era from
era.
1972 to 1974. Okay, Steve?
When I went in, it was towards the end of the war. I enlisted because I had a low draft number 4. So I figured I was doomed. So anyway, I decided to just go ahead and enlist. And that way, after my service, I'd have the GI Bill. So my parents wouldn't worry about it. Sorry, but thinking about all the people in my family that served, it's making me emotional. But anyway, so I ended up getting orders for Vietnam because at the time they weren't sending any draftees there, and there were very few RAs, regular Army. So I had orders, got all the shots, and if anybody was ever deployed like Tony, you got a boatload of shots in you. Plague 1, Plague 2, Malaria 3. And they have, back then they had air guns on both sides of your necks. And when I was in basic getting them, they ran out of serum for the one gun, so they reloaded. And after they did it, the guy shot a hole in the wall to test it out. Next! And the guy, just as he started to do it, fainted, cut a line. So anyway, I was all set to be shipped out to the repo depot in Vietnam, but on a Friday night, they canceled my orders. So I ended up spending the rest of my time out at Fort Lewis, Washington training. So anyway, just a couple things about my family. My grandfather, he was in the Ohio National Guard before World War I, and he got deployed to the Texas Mexico border for the Mexican War. My uncle, he was in the National Guard before World War II, and he became part of the 37th Infantry Division called the Buckeye Division, and he spent the entire war overseas. So a lot of combat in the South Pacific. My dad, he was at UD on December 7, 1941, and back then, because there were so many critical needs, they sent a lot of young soldiers to a full year of school for critical needs. So he went to the University of Maryland to study civil engineering. So then when he was deployed, he went to Okinawa and got there before the island was completely secure, but he didn't see any fighting. He was strafed once, he said. But he spent the rest of the war building the airfields and the ports so we could take the war further.
Japan?
Yep. So anyway, he had a lot of interesting story. His brother set out to war at West Point. He'd been trying to get in, and so he ended up in the 1945 graduating class at West Point. And his one brother was in the Merchant Marines, the other was in the Army Air Corps. My grandfather's cousin was the first soldier from Sandusky, Ohio, that died in World War I, so the VFW's named after him. I had a cousin, he made out like a bandit. Vietnam era, he was going to the University of Detroit in engineering, but doing co-oping at Wright Pat. Well, his draft number was up, so he had to enlist, so he enlisted in the Air Force. Well, his Air Force boss had enough pull, he just had to change clothes, so he just kept doing engineering stuff out of right field, and then ended up making it a career. So anyway, that's my background. So, you know, a lot of people I knew were doing everything to stay out of the military, but with my background, I had no problem listening. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. Steve.
I've got a box of Kleenex.
What's your Steve?
Convention and its importance. It's also a time to bring all 166 veterans, 95% of whom served in Vietnam, into one unforgettable photo. And taking a moment to give a collective salute to a few fallen heroes who couldn't make the trip. At the U.S. Marine Corps War Memorial, we meet a father and daughter with a loving story to tell.
I wanted it to be a surprise, and I didn't think he would sign up on his own. And so it was kind of like my gift or recognition to him.
I was working in her house, helping her remodel. She put some paperwork down in front of me with everything covered except the signature. And said, "Do you trust me to sign this?"
Dennis Eichinger was a 19-year-old sergeant when he was sent to Vietnam. Like so many veterans, he still struggles to talk about his service. His daughter Anya made it a point he get the recognition for that service he so richly deserves.
And it's where he came from and what made him who he is today. So yes, I'm proud of that.
Last year I was in Washington DC, and I got to see my mom's name.
Facing the past
It's
can
hard.
take great strength,
We're proud of her.
but it can also
Proud
provide
of you.
great healing.
Right there, James A. Long. Right, where you?
Yeah, one more finger down, one more
That's your
down.
friend.
Right there, you go.
Many Vietnam veterans were barely out of high school when they enlisted or were drafted. The majority of those killed weren't even 21 years old yet.
I thought that was kind of a sad situation. Every time you go there and there's such another pair of boots, there's nobody to put in them. That wasn't good.
A chalk rubbing of their buddy's name can carry more weight than some of these veterans were prepared for.
You came home. Sure, that means a lot to him. You remember them. God bless you. Thank you.
At the World War II Memorial, the vets are starting to take hold of what today has meant.
Everything. Nothing, I cannot pick anything out correctly. Just everything. It's everything. Everything's great. Made up all the bull we got when we got back. Made it up for all of that. So it's well worthwhile.
Now it's time for a final stop. And with that, these veterans are now preparing to go home.
Raise your hand if you'd like to get a letter from home. All right, well, we've got your mail call coming, guys, just like when you were in the service.
Honor Flight Dayton goes out of its way to make sure these veterans know how grateful our community is for them.
Lance Casey, Charlie Campbell, William Holtz, Johnny Hopkins.
Thank you for your service. You're the best. Thank you.
Every veteran gets a package of letters from family, school children, and complete strangers.
Very touching, you know. I've never been thanked before for what we did.
And the thank yous are only just beginning as these veterans land at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and prepare for the homecoming they've been waiting decades for. A trip of a lifetime.
This is part of that long-term healing process for some of them. Finally, I'm home.
A day that'll be etched in these veterans' memories forever.
And we are very excited to share that this Veterans Day, November 11th, we're going to be sharing a half-hour Honor Flight special. We'll be taking a look back at how the program got started right here in the Dayton area, how it spread across the country, and take you on 2 unforgettable trips. That'll air November 11th at 6:30 and 10:30 on Fox 45.
Couple of things, I don't know if you remember this, but when they announced who they selected the architect, the design, the Vietnam Memorial, people, is this guy crazy? And it's turned out to be the most beloved war memorial in Washington, D.C. That when it was going up and the people saw the sketch, is this guy crazy? Now, Pat, in the film, you could probably tell us who Major General Mecklenburg is.
I don't know Mecklenburg, I don't know that one.
Okay, well, he was one of Wright-Pat's most famous employees out there because he flew the Hanoi Hilton, the last plane after the war with all the POWs
Okay.
out of North Vietnam.
I think the part I love in hearing this video is coming home.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you go home, you're greeted with love.
And that's part of the reason they did it, because there was no big, people were brought home in waves from Vietnam and they were spit on and they weren't welcome home. And so this is a way to make up for that.
It's important. So, Anthony, thank
You're
you
up,
for
Tony.
sharing.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing, Steve. Okay.
When I went to Pitt, I needed money, so I joined ROTC, and it paid for my monthly rent. And when I graduated, I became a second lieutenant. I got commissioned in January of 1964. And I went as an artillery, I went to the artillery school in Fort Sill, and I spent 4 months there for officers for training. And then I went to Fort Hood, Texas. And I reported to the commanding office there, and they said, Lieutenant Massoud, you will report at 4 a.m. You are the battalion maintenance officer, and you will lead the convoy to Desert Storm. This was a 51-day maneuver in the desert from Fort Hood, Texas, all the way to California, and there were 250,000 soldiers in this maneuver, and that was my first real. So I really learned being out in the desert in a Jeep, living in a tent for 51 days, killing rattlesnakes and tarantulas. And I didn't get any bites. I go to church, they fly me back to the Fort Hood, and I go to church, and I'm standing up for the gospel, and I sit down, and I had this most horrific pain. I got stung by a scorpion in church, so I had to go to the hospital. But anyway, another experience I had, my 2 years was coming up, and my chief warrant officer said, Lieutenant Massoud, you should extend your stay in the military. He said, and then apply for Germany. I said, you know what? I said, that's a great idea. You know, I'm young. So I sent a letter in to the Department of the Army, and I said, I would like to extend my stay as indefinite and be transferred to Germany. And about a month later, in September, I get this letter from the Department of Defense that said, Dear Lieutenant Massoud, you'll be happy to know that your request for transfer has been granted, and you will stay as a indefinite in the military. And it says, in October, you will report to Fort Bragg for Special Warfare School, take 30 days leave, and then in January, report to Defense Language Institute in Monterey, where I learned Vietnamese. And then you report to Saigon, to Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base. I had a heart attack. I grabbed the warrant officer, and I said, what did you do to me? But you know what? I had nightmares, you know, every night.
Yeah.
And I go to school, and I'm learning Vietnamese, and before you know it, I'm in Vietnam, and I was like fearless. I was fearless. Nothing bothered me. Me and this major, he was a black officer. I had they were both black officers that became friends of mine. We all went to Vietnam together. We decided to go to Saigon, and we went to one of the bars, and we started speaking Vietnamese, and these women go, we didn't understand a word they were saying. It took us 3 months to learn how to really speak fluent Vietnamese. So,
I want to hear you.
tôi nói tiếng Việt giỏi lắm. Khi tôi ở Vietnam, tôi là cô bạn, tôi là đại úy. I said, I forgot what I said. I said, I speak Vietnamese very well. I was an advisor and I was a captain in Vietnam.
And you still speak?
Tôi nói,
You just did.
yeah.
You ever
You
been
just
to
said
the
so.
Vietnamese Catholic Church?
And
Well, here's what happened. I go to my assignment in Hue, which is north Vietnam, north of Saigon by, I don't know, 150 miles north of Da Nang. And in Hue, my assignment was advisor for I-Corps. And I was advisory team 1. An advisor was like a psychological warfare officer. What you want to do is try to win the hearts and minds of the Vietnamese. So every week I would get food, I would get rice, I would get cement, I would bring a doctor out to these different villages. And I would also go in and I would meet a Navy lieutenant. He was always like a Seabee. He would have a PT-109 boat. He'd come up the river, he'd meet me, and we would take someone from the village who had a hair lip. Okay, I got a lot of photos of the hair lip kids and adults, because in Vietnam, the diet creates bad you know, the nutrition causes them to have a hair lip, which is hideous. You see the photos on TV sometimes. We would take him to food buy. Navy doctors loved it because it was an opportunity for them to practice their surgery. And a week later, we go back, take him back to the village, and they were like healed. And it was really a great way because they were mocked. They were like the lowest as you can be in a village. And when they would come back, and they would, I mean, that made a big difference for them, and it promoted Americans there. Now, one of the nice things about what I did was I did see action. That's where I got the Bronze Star. But most of my work was with the people in Vietnam. Here we are building a road for the villagers, and we had my second 6 months in Vietnam. I became the Revolutionary Development Mobile team member, which was started in November of '66, and we started training all the Vietnamese battalions. They would come into the way, and they would train on how to ambush, how to fight, and also how to do good work in the communities. So they wouldn't rape, pillage, and steal from the villages. They would learn how to win their hearts and minds. And this is an example of the soldiers working with the villagers doing road work. Go ahead. Here you can see the rice we bring in, and then this would be distributed to all the villages, like you see in Gaza. This reminds me a lot of what God, you know, bringing food. USAID was very important, and now they're sort of disbanded.
Two soldiers were Vietnamese?
Yes, those are.
Not American?
They were Vietnamese soldiers.
They were.
They weren't North Vietnamese, they were
They're
Allies.
south. This is all south. Okay, next slide. You can see this is one of my most precious slides. This little village girl. And I really learned when I go in a village, all the villages, houses were huts with dirt floors. The mothers and fathers would be working in the rice fields, and little girls like her would be on her brother's back. He might be 10 or 11, and that's the way they were all day. Living with these little kids was horrific because they had nothing. Right, next slide. You can see that? This was common. You never see that here in the States, do you? Very rare. And they had nothing. Go ahead, next slide.
Yeah.
You can see I had a really good doctor in our compound. He would go out with me when I asked him to, and we would bring all kind of medicines and supplies, and they had no doctors. The difference is when we had opportunities to go into villages, it was so important because you never hear the comparison of the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese to ISIS. You never hear that. There was no difference between a Viet Cong soldier or ISIS because they would go in, they would behead anyone with an education, doctors, teachers, anybody that was educated, they would actually behead them. No different than what was going on in Middle East. Next slide.
I think let me go backwards because that's the last one.
Okay.
Let's go backwards a little
So what happened was,
There you go.
when I was in Vietnam, I had a couple miracles. I'm going to tell you about them. It was December 22nd. I was asked by a major to go to an outpost that was overrun, and the captain and the Vietnamese officer both went to the outpost from this other location. It was about 19 miles north of Vietnamese, just below the DMZ. So I had a sergeant and myself. We both went. He drove, and we went to this. There was a church steeple with a light on it, and we had perimeter, and it was like a little village, and they had a 105 and a 155 howitzer. So, and this is daytime, and I get a call on a radio from a Marine captain. He says, hey, I need help. You know, you listen to this on the radio. And I said, well, where are you and so forth? He says, I have a wounded Marine. He said, we're in this village. And the Vietnamese lieutenant that was with me, he knew where he was. So we got in our Jeep, and the Vietnamese lieutenant took some of his soldiers in a large vehicle, like a SUV, like an International Harvester. And we go for a few miles, and we come in, you can hear the gunfire and everything. And as we park the Jeeps in his vehicle, and it's like a path then. You walk and you can see all the stakes for booby traps along the walkway. Stakes, you know, with poison on them. You fall off the road.
Wow.
And the villagers are rushing out past us, and then the soldiers are coming out, and there's a lot of noise. And the captain, Marine captain, is coming out with his wounded soldier. And we get him in the Jeep, we go back to the Jeep, and as we're doing this, the Marines come with a couple of big trucks, deuce and a half, and they pick up the other soldiers, and they take them back to their compound. These are brand new Marines who got there from the US, and they had this perimeter about 1.5 miles or 1.5 kilometers from where I was located. So by the time we get to the compound that the Marines were at, it got pitch black. And we couldn't see. And the sergeant runs into the barbed wire, and we can't get the Jeep out. So the sergeant and I, we leave the vehicle there, and the Marines says, come back tomorrow. So we get in the Harvester, and I'm sitting with my rifle out the window, and I'm sweating because it's dark, and this is a new road they made. You can see where the church tower is. And all I can think of is my mother. And I can think of her praying a rosary for me.
Oh.
So we get back to the compound, and I said to the lieutenant, I says, we gotta check the perimeter. So we checked to make sure everything was clear. We had machine guns, we had the 105 and 155. These are artillery pieces. So I go to by the 9 o'clock, I go and I get in my bunk. I have a net, mosquito net, and all of a sudden I get this horrific feeling. Do you ever feel that way when something's going to happen? And before you know it, it lit up like the 4th of July. The Marines were ambushed. They were firing 50 caliber machine guns, and the tracers were coming our way. You could see the tracers, the red, and they had no artillery or anything. And it was a colonel, and he's calling, and I'm hearing him, he's calling for support. He can't get any military support from Da Nang or Saigon for air support or artillery support. So I started talking to him, and I said, what do you need? He said, I need flares. So I talked to the lieutenant, the Vietnamese lieutenant, and we both got on our phones. I called Da Nang, Da Nang called Saigon. He calls on his channel down to Saigon, and then before you know it, we get responses back. And we said, let's give him air. We were permitted to fire our 155 and a 105 where you can see, you know, like I have one of those senior moments right here. So all night it's lit up, you know, from the artillery. And he's still calling for help, and he's firing his tracer bullets again. He says, I need air support because there's the battle going on. So we do the same thing. We call, and I get Da Nang. And before you know it, Da Nang authorizes Puff the Magic Dragon. Okay? And you can see this. I wish I had a camera back then that could videotape this. But it looked like a bolt of lightning coming. Planes were flying until daybreak, from midnight till daybreak. And the colonel, they're still firing. I keep hollering at him, you know, because tracers were coming in our area. So the next day, I talked to the lieutenant. I said, in Vietnamese, I said, let's go get our Jeep. So we go, and I'm by myself, the sergeant stayed there. We go to the Marine base, and they cut the barbed wire off the axle, and I didn't know it. And I'm driving, and it's a little wet, and I have my rifle on the my seat there, and I didn't have a top, I just had a windshield up. And I see this convoy way down there coming, and these two Viet Cong run across the road in front of me, and I went to reach for my rifle. Before you know it, I went to hit the brakes, and I had no brakes, and I panicked, and the vehicle went like this, it slid, and it rolled over.
Oh.
And the windshield protected me.
Wow.
It bent, but it protected. The convoy was Americans coming back from the operation that got overrun, and they helped me roll the Jeep over, and I got the sergeant, and we went back to the way. That was the first miracle. The second one was I was officer of the night, and I had duty in our compound, and this is in May. And it was midnight when I go to just about midnight, and I go to my room. I had an apartment shared with another captain. We each had a bedroom, and in the middle was a kitchen. And our bedrooms, we had a door, a screen door, and there was a bunk that I had, and they told you what to do. If ever we get attacked, you get under the bunk, have your gear on, and your rifle out. So I get in my bed, and I hit that another premonition feeling. Next thing I know, we got mortared. And I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I put my helmet on, my flak jack, and I got under the bed, and my rifle's out through the, I had like maybe something where my rifle could sit. The next morning, I could see, and I had all these boxes in my room. They were china, stereo. I had all kind of stereo equipment. I had clothes, boxes, because I was getting ready to pack, and they were all stacked up like a pyramid in my room. I mean, like maybe this high. The shrapnel was all around it, and not one box got a piece of shrapnel on it. Other people had their box, their conics, like a container to be shipped home, were blasted. You know, they were on the front of the, because I was getting ready to leave in July, and you get your stuff together. So that was two, but I can tell you this, I would not change anything I did as being a veteran, being in the military, because I think what I did made a difference for a lot of those kids and people. And it wasn't where I was going in villages and, you know, shooting or anything like that people. It was helping them. So when I came out of the service, I sort of carried that on, you know, working with kids and people with disabilities. And that's why I got the last year, I was inducted into the Ohio Volunteer Hall of Fame. And that's only given when you put away your military and you become a veteran and you do a lot of good things in the community. So I thank you, Lord, for that. And I thank my wife for really supporting me on a lot. I thank Father John Paul for giving me the spiritual guidance. So I think being a veteran is very important, because a lot of us do volunteer work, we do a lot of entrepreneurship, we do a lot of things to help this country grow.
Amen.
Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Tony.
You know, the whole time you were talking, I think how important it is to share our story, whatever that story is, because it helps us to see that person, to see who they are, and to see God's finger through their life and what He's done in their life and how it's trickled out to other people. So thank you so much.
Well, as you guys know, I'm a talker. So if I, meet somebody, I'm asking them questions. This one guy I met at Tim Hortons, he was a World War II pilot, got shot down in France. Luckily, the French resistance found him. He set out the rest of the war in a basement right across from Gestapo headquarters in Paris. I don't think I'd like to wake up or go to sleep every night with the Gestapo headquarters right across the street from me.
Wow.
But they were, because it was D-Day, or they were just waiting for the Allies to get there, instead of trying to
Thank
get
you, Steve. That was bad.
Pat, thank you so much for sharing with us.
And he has lots of stories.
I just have anything as exciting as you do.
Oh, well.
That is the fourth or fifth cousin of Saint Charbel.
Fourth cousin, Saint
Fourth
Charbel.
cousin of Saint Charbel.
Yeah. In fact, my grandparents' parish priest, Core Bishop E, Joseph E, he was the postulator for St. Charbel's cause and wrote all the books and everything that has to be submitted for that to happen.
Pastor Aid, he was your cousin also?
The saint, you're related?
The saint, yeah.
God bless you.
Let
Let me touch you.
Yeah.
Let me touch you.
He was your pastor?
My grandparents' pastor, and my dad's pastor when he was a kid. And Bishop Bede, one time we were visiting up there in Massachusetts where he was, and he took my parents over to the side and he opens up a book he had just written about St. Charbel, and he says, "You see right there? St. Charbel's mother is Bridget Shediac.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
She's one of yours."
You still have this book,
I got a book at home.
Oh,
I'll show it to you,
Pat,
Paul.
please.
I got it at home, yeah.
Please.
Pat,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And you have the same picture of Saint Charbel's mother?
No, we don't have any photos of her. He found it when he was doing all the research on his background, St. Charbel's background, everything else. Yeah. I'll
That's
bring the book
awesome.
for
That's
you.
exciting.
Yeah. So.
This is Pat. I'm gonna find a picture to kind of represent you being in the Air
Well,
Force there.
it's an F4
It's okay,
with a
tell me about it. I
Sidewinder
know
missile on it.
nothing. I know
I
nothing
know that
about
much.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'll let you go ahead and tell us your story.
At a very young age of 18, I went in the Air Force, enlisted in the Air Force. I had just gotten married. I had a kid on the way. I went in the Air Force, went to basic training at Lackland Air Force Base down in San Antonio, Texas. And I was there for about 6 weeks because basic training in the Air Force was not that long. And the first 4 years I was assigned to Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. And then I went to New York State to Plattsburgh Air Force Base. And very interesting, different types of assignments. The assignment in Virginia was a fighter base. They had 3 fighter squadrons. So it had a different tempo where they were always deploying or whatever. But then when I went to Plattsburgh in New York State, it's an entirely different organization because we were a bomb wing. And we had bombers that were loaded with nuclear bombs, ready to fly out, be off the ground within 15 minutes. Now keep in mind, we're talking, this was in 1981, so this is the middle of Cold War. You still had the Soviet Union. So, you had the constant tension between the countries and all the rest.
Cold War.
Cold War. And our base's mission was those bombers were to go straight to Moscow. They were to go to decapitate Soviet leadership. That was the plan.
Was that an official SAC base?
Oh yeah, it was Strategic Air Command. Yep. So I'm a SAC trained killer. Yeah. Did my time in SACs. And it was an interesting assignment in some ways, being in Strategic Air Command, which was considered the elite of the Air Force. Very regimented way of how they did business and such. There were checklists for every single thing on earth. Honest to God, I couldn't get over it. But one of the things, I was assigned to a munitions maintenance squadron. And my first, when I was in Virginia, when I was in New York State, and then when I was in Turkey, I was an administrative specialist. So if you ever watched the TV show MASH, You see Radar O'Reilly running around? Well, I was basically a Radar O'Reilly. That's what I was.
yeah.
But what was interesting at Plattsburgh was during the war game exercises, they needed extra manpower to do things. So I'm there about a week or so, and I get asked, do you know how to drive a stick shift? Yeah. Okay. You're going to be on a munitions convoy as an augmentee. Okay. Oh, by the way, your troops are coming with you. And I had, here I was, you're 21 years old, 21 years old, and I got 5 people working for me, 5 airmen working for me. I'm like, okay. So we go to the training, and I find out what our real job's going to be is driving 2.5-ton trucks. And there's going to be one trailer behind tied to the truck that's going to have 2 short-range attack missiles on it with nuclear warheads. And behind that's going to be a second trailer that has 2 gravity bombs on it with nuclear warheads. And I'm like, okay. So we go through all the training and all the rest, and we do all this kind of stuff. So before the next exercise comes out, superintendent took me out one day and he says, I want to show you something because you need to see this before we go out during a real exercise. Okay. And he took me out during a different exercise I did not participate in. And we drive out to an airplane, and there's armed guards around, everything else. And he tells the armed guard, the 2 of us, here's our passes and everything. We need to go up on the airplane. He says, come with me. He takes me up to the airplane, and the airplane's parked here, and under the wings are hanging these things that look like silver bullets. He tells me, put your hand on there. Okay, it's ice cold. This is, fall in New York State, or this is February in New York State, I guess, February, March. And he says, that's a BDU 61, 10 times stronger than what we threw at Hiroshima.
Wow.
And this feeling went over me. But then the other side, he says, don't forget, you're protecting the country. But this is what it's really all about. And that was really a moment that, I can see it now, and it's been 40-some years, I can see it right now. So it was an interesting thing. I had to carry a shotgun, sawed-off shotgun when we were doing these exercises, and we had to do the convoys and everything, which was interesting because they'd have the security police out front with their trucks and their flashing lights and everything else. They'd have 2 of their trucks. And then we'd have the munitions truck, so here you are in your truck. And you got another person there with you, and you're wearing helmets and flak vests, and he'd have the shotguns. And if we had to stop en route to the airplane, we had to dismount and get out with the shotguns. We were authorized to kill anybody that approached, tried to harm the weapons, the bombs and the missiles. And then you drive up to the airplane, and at one point, before the convoy left, I had a sign for the custody of the 2 missiles and 2 bombs. So you had to go out there and verify the serial numbers. I mean, this is like going to a rental place, you rent some tools and they verify everything. This is exactly what it's like. And then when we got out there to the airplane, the aircraft, there were other people had a sign to transfer custody to them and such. So that was an interesting part of that assignment. The rest of the assignment was bad. The cold wasn't bad. I didn't mind the cold that much, though, but it was interesting. And then I got an assignment to Turkey, and I went to Şantepe Radio Relay Link, which in the old days, before we had a lot of satellites, the communications were done by bouncing signals off of the troposphere back down.
And just down the road in Westchester, we had the Mars station.
Same idea.
We got the signals back from there.
So I got the assignment there. The place was so far out in the middle of nowhere that as I get these orders and I'm like, where is this place? Nobody in personnel knew where it was. So all I got told was it's in northwest Turkey. Here's how you'll get there. Okay. So I got there, It was literally the end of nowhere, sitting on a mountaintop in northwest Turkey. But if you walked out of the dormitory to the dining hall and you looked that way to the southeast, you were overlooking Lake Iznik and Nicaea, where the Council of Nicaea was held. We were like 35 miles as the crow flies from there, and that's where the Pope's going to be. Was next month he's going there? Yeah. So it's interesting. And the whole time in Turkey was interesting. I'll show you a photo in a minute. It's kind of funny when you see it. But we'll come back to it. We'll get to it. Yeah. So I left there. I went to California, and I was assigned to the organization that was doing the engineering and procurement of ICBM missiles, the big missiles. And a very interesting assignment. I had a chance. I got asked one day, how'd you like to be the records manager? Okay, it's part of my career field. It's an interesting, different part. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. It was a great part. It changed my career path because not that many people were in that kind of work. So you became a little more known and things like that. And it was very interesting work, and also correlated to the outside if I wanted to get out, but I stayed. And I went to Maryland. I was at Andrews Air Force Base, and I was doing computer systems development work. We were trying to bring the Air Force out of the 1940s paper-based way of doing work into the personal computer and the local area network way of doing business, which was hard because you had to figure out, why are we doing things like this? Well, we need to do it this way, and you find out some of the stuff we were doing dated back to World War II. And now you got to break the habit of, well, this is the way we've always done it, you know? And then we even found one process, travel order process, that dated back to the Revolutionary War. The Army had tracked it down. When you were in the Army, okay, you got told to go someplace, right? You had your written orders, right? So you get the written orders, and somebody in personnel signed them, correct? Okay. Then you ran across base to finance office, and somebody put a number on there about this long that was the funds to cover your travel, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then you ran across base to base headquarters, and somebody took your paperwork and they logged something in, they put a number on it, and they stamped it, gave you a copy, said, have a great trip, right? That whole process dated back to Valley Forge. The Army had traced this back.
I still have some of that.
The first part of the travel order and that first signature you got was your company commander saying you could leave to go on that travel. Where you went to finance and they did their magic and said, here's money to travel. That was from when the quartermaster gave you your rations and some money to make the trip. And then the third thing, where they stamped the bottom of the orders with an official stamp, was your pass to go through the lines and keep going. And then it was, how do you automate that? Well, why do we need to do that? We're not doing that anymore. Why? So the tour in Maryland was very interesting in trying to pull things forward, you know. And then when I came out in 92, came out to Wright-Patterson, my job there went a little further than that, and it was, how are we going to do records management in a computerized environment? How are we going to control all the data we have, which we're drowning in data, you know, and drowning in information? How are we going to do that? How do you deploy now with laptops and networks and such? It turns out there was no maintenance capability. There were no spare parts and all this stuff. So I worked on some of those issues. And then how do you defend your data against information warfare by the people who want to hurt us? And every time you hear about a data breach, that's what we're talking about. Basically, it's a form of warfare. So, September 1st, 94, I was promoted to Chief Master Sergeant. In the Air Force, only 1% of all the enlisted can be chiefs.
Wow.
And only 2% can be senior master sergeants. So I had set my heart on it in basic training. I wanted to be a chief if I was going to stay in. And I was a little shocked that it happened as quick as it did. But be that as it may, I still had a lot of fun. But at 20 years, 2 months, and 15 days of service, I decided it was time to retire. So I worked out in the private sector. And I didn't pick up anything as cool as a Bronze Star, but I did get a couple of trinkets, all right?
Hey, for such a boring thing you said, it turned out to be pretty exciting.
It was interesting. Well, I'll show you a couple photos.
Did you have your challenge coin to hand out?
The challenge coins, actually, I never saw a challenge coin
I
until
never heard them either till recently.
I didn't see one until '94. I got handed one at my chief's induction ceremony. I didn't even know what it was. I had asked somebody the next day, what's this thing? And then that was all after I left the service in '96, that challenge coin became a big deal.
Oh, yeah, because if you knew a master, can I have one of your challenge coins?
Yeah, that was after my time. This is a graduation photo. It was taken at basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in
Touch
'76.
your photo. Oh,
There
I see it,
am.
yeah.
There I am.
No.
And
Really?
what was funny is the gentleman there, Sergeant Lucas, he was retiring. When we left, he was retiring, but he had an assistant that was working with him who was a Hispanic guy named Oliva. And Sergeant Oliva thought I was a Chicano like he was. So he's riding me all the time about everything. You know, so it's like, okay, I'm not quite Gomer Pyle, but, you know, okay. So what was funny was the last night of basic training before we left the next day, he's calling all of us in one by one, congratulate us on finishing basic training, I want to give us a few words. And he says, is your mother Chicano? That can't be your name, your last name's not Chicano. I said, no. My father's of Lebanese descent, my mother's Irish. We're not Chicano. He said, I thought you were Chicano, I had to ride you because I couldn't let you slide.
He wanted you to be outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
You were lucky. You
Yeah.
were lucky.
in my basic training, you're trying to figure out everything out military.
Yeah.
Well, one of my drill sergeants, little black guy, saw a lot of combat in Vietnam, and he's always, don't get behind my back,
Yeah.
So anyway, his name was Sergeant Major. You're not an officer, so a new recruit, Sergeant Major, but turns out he was a sergeant, his last name was Major.
Or Father Bishop.
Yeah, right, Father Bishop.
Father Bishop.
Now, when I was at that mountaintop radio site, it was kind of interesting in lots of ways. There were only 35 of us there that were Americans. There were 12 Turkish soldiers. There was a Turkish technical sergeant. There was a Turkish chief master sergeant who was tougher than nails. My God, I've never met anybody as tough as he was. And then there was a Turkish captain there. So our radio site could have fit in this open field we have here next to the church. Could have fit there. We had like 5-7 buildings, and that was it. But the locals knew us. There was a little village below us that had probably 200, maybe 250 people there, and then below there was a little city called Gimlik that had 20,000 people, and then the city of Bursa, about 40 minutes away, had 500,000 people. At the time I was in Turkey, it was a transition time. Part of it was like you were in the 14th century, where you'd see someone driving down the street with an ox cart, and then a minute later you see somebody driving by in a Mercedes-Benz. So it was a transition time. There was some industry, but a lot of things being done like hundreds of years old, like picking olives by hand off of trees and things like that. But we had good relations with the folks in the area. But on Christmas Eve 1981, the captain I worked for, Captain Edgar, comes to my office that day, and he says, "There's $30. Go in a base exchange. Get as many candy bars as you can find." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because we're taking Father Christmas to hand out candy bars down to the little school in Sean Yarview." I'm like, okay. And so gathered up, I must have had 200 some candy bars, all different kinds, American candy, of course, And so we went down to the school. As soon as we pulled up, with Father Christmas sitting in the front passenger seat of a Jeep, we pull up there. All these kids are there, school kids are there, the teachers. All the school kids knew Father Christmas. Started screaming. I can't remember what the first name, what the Turkish word is for father, but Christmas, you could hear it plain as day. So here's my job, is to hand out the candy bars, you know, and of course Santa's going around shaking hands and I'm handing out the candy bars. So after we got done, they took this picture with us with the school teachers and such. There's my buddy Bob Boss is in the Santa suit. And the gentleman here, he was the mayor of the town. And if I remember right, this gentleman here was the principal. And those were the other teachers. And so we're there, we're getting ready to, starting to pack up and then go back to our mountaintop. And the imam of the local mosque says to me, "How would you like to climb the minaret?" I'm like, "Thank you, imam, I'll take a pass on it." Because when you looked inside, it's only about 4 feet across. It doesn't have a stairs or a ladder or anything. It had spikes, like on a telephone pole.
Oh, you had to climb?
To climb to the top, yeah. And in the old days, they would climb up there and the Muslim priest would give the blessings or the prayers or whatever from up there. Yeah.
Were there any Christian schools or churches? Or?
In Turkey, there was only about 2% of the population was Christian. Yeah, 1% was Jewish and about 2%.
Before we were all Christians.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I didn't put it here in the photos I sent you, Father. In southwest Turkey is Ephesus, which goes back to the biblical days and all the rest, and Mermana, which is the last home of the Virgin Mary. And you go there, that's considered one of the holiest shrines within Islam. And you go there, and the people are, you know, you see Christians going in, you see Muslims going in, everybody's cool. And I remember standing there, I was there 4 times, I stood there each time, I thought, how come we can be okay here? What's the deal? You get along here, why not elsewhere? But that's for a different story.
Do you think that the situation has changed, right? The situation in Turkey has changed.
It's changed a lot since then, yeah. But that was interesting to be there, it was so peaceful. You could hear a pin drop, I mean, you know. And if you went in the Virgin Mary's house, it wasn't that big, it was about as big as the kitchen there, that was it. It wasn't that big. So, yeah. Show the next photo, please. And this is when I retired in 1996. This was at the retirement ceremony. And this is my cousin Harry Green. And you remember during Afghanistan War, the Major General got killed in Afghanistan.
That was
That's
him.
my cousin Harry. That's my cousin Harry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your cousin? He was Lebanese?
Yeah, he's my first cousin, yeah.
Lebanese?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. He,
Shidia also?
no, his last name is Green. His mother is my dad's sister.
Your hair is dark.
Well, let me tell you something. I was 27 and I started getting the first strands of gray in my coffee bean brown hair, okay? And I'm getting busted by guys that are losing their hair making fun of me, okay? So then by the time I go to the Senior NCO Academy in 92, I'm getting gray here at the temple, and then you can see by 96. Yeah.
Well,
Looks
you got
good.
too close to those nuclear bombs.
No, I raised 2 children, that's what happened. Yeah, I raised 2 children, yeah. So, this is the Chief Master Sergeant's flag, and that's actually standing up on a pole at home in our office.
Right, Pat?
That's at Wright Pat,
Oh.
yeah, that was in the enlisted club at Wright
Okay.
Patterson, yeah. So, I had a great time. I tell people, you know, I walked out of the Air Force and I was able to get my GI Bill. I got a lot of good training, supervision, management, everything else. Walked out the door, got a job in Columbus, making more money than I did in the service. And they were looking for the experience that I had and the knowledge I had. So that's why, Father, I'm always telling people in the parish, this is a great thing for your kids to consider.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. It changes you for life. It changes you for
I
life.
totally agree with
Pat,
you.
you had an impressive career and you took full advantage of your opportunity within the Air Force, and that's what makes a good careerman. You're open to change and opportunity.
Yeah. Now, what was funny, here in the parish, you remember this in 2007 when we did the first festival at the old site?
Yeah.
And Major DePietro from the police department
Yes.
said, the trustees want to come to your opening ceremonies. And everybody looks around like, I don't do any opening ceremonies. And Father Pierre looks at me and says, Pat? And I'm like, okay, we'll do something, John. Don't worry, we'll take care of that. We'll get the honor guard to come out from the base, and we'll make something, put something together
You did a
here.
good job.
And that's where we put together those opening ceremonies, was because the local politicians wanted to come, you know?
Here in Washington Township, they don't show up.
Yeah,
Pat, your cousin Kudrasi, so he died in Afghanistan.
yeah, he was shot by a Afghan soldier that was secretly sympathetic to the Taliban. Yeah.
Taliban.
Yep. Yeah, he got shot about four times, and he got killed on the spot. And there were several other people who were wounded. One guy was left in a wheelchair. Yeah.
And his family lives here in Dayton?
They live in. Well, his widow lives in Virginia, right outside Washington. She's retired from the Army. She was a colonel in the Army. She's retired from the Army, and his son is in New York State, works for Mercedes-Benz on software development for cars, and their daughter is a chemist, and she's in chemical sales, and she's living in Colorado now.
And they are Maronite or Roman Catholic?
I don't think they weren't raised Catholic. I don't think so. Yeah, the whole family. I'm the only one that ended up still practicing. You know. Yeah. So, but interesting time. I had a great time.
Thank you.
I love hearing you telling military stories. I met this guy when I was on jury duty. We were in the pool, and he's from Dayton. And I don't always tell him this, that his neighbor kept bugging him about going down to join the VFW because he told his neighbor he was a veteran. So finally, he agreed to go down to the VFW with his neighbor. So they get him in there, give him a beer, and the guy's having a good time. And his neighbor goes, well, let me get the commander. We'll get you signed up. So they got the paper, everything's going good, name up. Branch of service. The guy goes, Vermont. they couldn't get him out fast enough.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you so much. Your journey of life and all of the fruit that has come from it.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is my mother, Bertie Tillman. So my mother was born in Luther, Oklahoma in 1921. And her father and mother actually moved from Alabama with another family, and they settled in Luther. My mother's father, Edward Tillman, was you would say he was a people's person, and he also loved his community there in Luther, and he dedicated a cemetery that's still there to this day, because during that time, blacks could not be buried in a white cemetery. And so it's called Tillman Cemetery on Route 66 out of Luther, Oklahoma. So my mother had two other siblings, both of which, as she is deceased, she died in 2005. I took care of her for 13 years. She had Alzheimer's.
Wow.
But I took care of my mom. But this is her story. So I'll kind of start off a little bit. I've written a little bit about my mom that I didn't know about her. The only thing she ever shared when we were growing up is that I'll never get on a ship again and I'll never go overseas. And she never did, even though multiple times my brother tried to get her to go on a cruise, she said no. And now I understand why. So this is a tribute to my mom, Bertie Tillman. Last name, my maiden name was Roberts, so that's my father. He died in 1986. He's been gone a long time. So until recently, little was known about the 688 Women's Army Corps. My brother and I knew that my mother served in the Army during World War II, but it was unclear how she served. In April 2024, I moved to Dayton, Ohio from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm a native Oklahoman, grew up in Oklahoma City, to live closer to my son and my grandchildren. Before I left Oklahoma, I started putting together a folder of pictures and memorabilia of my mother. You see, she passed away in October of 2005, and I wanted to leave a legacy of her life for my family. During this time of sorting through my mother's papers and pictures, I came across her Army discharge certificate and noticed that she served in the Postal Division. I commented to myself, Postal Division? What in the world does that mean? My mother never shared much about her service in the Army, in which I already said the only thing she shared was about the ship. And when I learned of Tyler Perry's movie just last year, The 6888, I remembered what I read on my mother's discharge papers, her certificate. It was then that I began my quest of learning about how and what my mother did in the Army. The 6888 is a long overdue tribute to the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion, the only all-black, all-female battalion to serve overseas during World War II. Directed by Tyler Perry, the film tells the story inspired by true events of the workmen who were tasked with sorting millions of backlogged mail for U.S. soldiers in Europe. While vital to the war effort, their service had largely been overlooked until recently. Hence, that's why my mother talked about it. She never did. Under the leadership of Major Charity Adams, the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion overcame challenges on multiple fronts. At 23 years of age, Charity Adams, a junior high school teacher from Columbia, South Carolina, answered the call to serve, drawn by a promise of career and leadership opportunities. She became the first Black woman to serve as an officer for WAC and lead the legendary 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion, the 6888, forever changing military history. Her part in the film, as you can see here, is played by Kerry Washington. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie
Oh
yet.
yeah, it was great.
Yes. Most people have said in looking at that picture, they always ask me, is that your mother? And I'm like, no. But she looks similar to Carrie. A little bit about Charity. After the war, Charity Adams earned her master's degree from Ohio State University. So it was almost like it was for me to be here. Because since I have moved here, and knowing that Oklahoma for 58 years was my home, I was like, I'm leaving everything I know. But I came here to find the presence and the feeling of my mom, and her strength is here with me. Because now I know her story. She continued to serve her community here in Dayton by founding the Black Leadership Development Program and working with organizations like the American Red Cross. She passed away in 2002 at the age of 83. The 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion overcame challenges on multiple fronts. Not only did they endure discrimination from their fellow Americans, but once deployed overseas, they also faced the constant threat of German attacks. That's why my mother was on a ship. They didn't have any protection, and there were Germans attacking. I can't even imagine the fear.
It was an old cruise ship, and they had no convoy.
Right.
It just said, here, ship, go to England.
It was stated by a veteran, first we had to fight segregation, second was the war, and third were the men. The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps was established in 1942. Women had long served the Army as nurses or cooks, but the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941 pushed the U.S. into World War II. That year, everything changed. On May 14, 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed a bill creating the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, WAC, which allowed women to serve in non-combat roles, such as messengers, military postal employees, chauffeurs, and telephone and telegraph operators. Eventually, the Corps was renamed a Women's Army Corps, solidifying their place in history. A few years later, in 1948, Congress passed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, which allowed women the right to serve as regular members of Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force like their male counterparts. Black women, along with some members of Hispanic and Caribbean descent, answered the call to serve in the WAC. The battalion was formed in December 1944 with a singular mission: to clear a massive backlog of undelivered mail for the U.S. soldiers stationed in Europe. It was believed that the mail filled with letters, photographs, and gifts from loved ones would provide a vital moral boost to troops fighting on the front lines. The women faced harsh conditions. The reality was brutal. Once in Birmingham, England, the 688 Battalion worked in freezing warehouses with no heat, rats chewing through the letters, and sorting undelivered mail under blackout conditions. There were no windows for natural light. Many suffered from eye strain as they worked long, exhausting shifts. Despite these conditions, the 688 worked tirelessly in 8-hour shifts, processing an average of 65,000 pieces of mail per shift, clearing the backlog in just 3 months, which was half the time allotted to them. Their efficiency was so remarkable that they were later called to Rouen, France, where they cleared even larger 3-year backlog that only took them 5 months. The creation of the 688 Battalion was a direct response to the Army's refusal to send black women overseas, even though their white counterparts had been deployed. Although the Women's Army Corps, WAC, opened doors for women to serve in military, black women were initially left out. It wasn't until civil rights leaders like Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt pushed for change that black women were finally allowed to serve in Europe. It took 70 years for an official recognition for the service they earned, despite their crucial role in maintaining morale by ensuring soldiers stayed connected to their families. It wasn't until 2022 that the 688 Battalion was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. My mother, Bertie Tillman Roberts, was attending Langston University when she answered the call to serve. The 688 was composed of 31 officers, 824 enlisted women. My mother was the only sergeant from Oklahoma.
And she was the first sergeant, which is impressive.
Mm-hmm. So here's a little picture. You can see my mother in this film right here. It's no sound, so this is from the National Archives. This is in Paris. And I'll show you my mom here in just a minute. This is my mother, and this is actually her brother.
Oh, wow.
And that's Charity Adams right there that was handing out these slips of paper. I'm not sure. I think it was to go somewhere or do something.
It's amazing you found that.
Actually, my cousin that lives in California found this and he sent it to me. That's Charity Adams right there.
Was she a colonel, right? Or
Uh-huh.
major?
Major,
Colonel, yeah,
major.
major, yeah.
I would love it if it was sound. Wouldn't it be nice to hear?
Artificial intelligence could read the lips and,
Yeah, yeah.
is she in there, your mother?
No, not in that. You'll see in a minute, I'm gonna probably move it because these are pretty long. There's where you're gonna see them march together. Because they didn't think that they were really part of the Army, that they couldn't do this, you know, and so they were constantly scrutinized. And they never thought that they could do the task that was asked of them.
Eleanor Roosevelt really helped them.
Mhm, mhm. Let me see if I can get to that part where they're, there they go. Might not be. I'm not sure what this scene is right here. Let's see if I can move it a little bit.
Where,
There they are, yeah.
Wow.
See if I can get them marching, which is, to me, so impressive. Might be on the next one.
yeah.
Pretty slick.
I think, so let me go to the next one. Let's see.
Harris,
Oops, it's the same one.
the same one, yeah.
Yeah, after, in record time that they sorted through all the mail in England, it was sent over to Paris, France, to do the same thing.
Yeah. Mhm.
If you get a chance, watch the movie.
Yes.
Is it on Netflix now?
Yeah, it is on Netflix.
It's really worth
I actually
watching.
bought a copy, so I have it.
Lee and I watched it together. Very moving.
See if I can get them. So there's Charity Adams.
She was the major.
She was a major.
That was the 15th of February, 1945.
Yeah,
Wow.
long ago. Here they go. This is impressive to me.
Oh, yeah. I do.
So 832, I think it said, women from all over the United States were gathered together to accomplish increasing the morale of the soldiers by getting through this backlog of mail. And they're watching them. So you're gonna see my mom at the very end leading the troops here from the back.
Boy, they look good. Right?
Yeah, look at those, look at that, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And there's my mother.
Oh, wow. Very pretty.
My mother was in the back, she was called the Cadence.
Right,
She was doing-
Cadence? You guys, you have to tell me because I know nothing, I'm
That's
still
what she was
learning.
doing back there.
That's what she was doing.
Calling out the step.
Calling out the step.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so good to know, thank you.
Really? I didn't know.
Thank
that
you.
goes with her musical background.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, my mother was
So
a
had
vocal,
purpose.
Had
vocal
purpose.
performance major, and she played in church, she played the organ and the piano.
Oh, wow.
And so my father was also a musician, he played with Lionel Hampton in the 50s and traveled all over the world.
And she's a musician as well.
Yeah, so-
She's
And
very
my daughter's a
humble, but
professor of
she's-
music, so. But this is, Steve and I, I didn't know much about Ohio, and I was scared of everything, and he went with me to because I didn't know
You
where I
didn't
was.
tell
It's
me.
kind of like, you know, when you fish out of water, when you don't know where you're going, it's like, I don't know if I want to venture off anywhere. So he so gracefully went
Yeah.
with me to see the movie. So this is at the Neon, and they had it
Uh-huh.
all decorated.
The movie?
To see the movie, the 688. And that's where I met Charity Adams' children.
Okay.
Her children were there too.
Her children, her mom.
Oh, they live here in Dayton?
Yeah.
Well, one stayed, but one's in DC.
Yeah, in DC area. So I went to the awards ceremony, the Congressional Awards Ceremony in Washington DC. And, this is the Congressional Gold Medal. They just got it blown up, what it looks like. I got a smaller replica of it at home, but this is an honor.
Yeah.
And this is my brother and I, so we
In
were
Washington
there.
DC?
Huh? Yeah, he lives in Washington DC, so we were there together with his family, and it was a packed crowd. It was an honor to be there.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually have a stamp that's coming
Wow.
out. There's several, there's a stamp honoring the 688. So hopefully we will see that
Good.
soon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. To support AAA?
And this is just a little, oh gosh, don't do this to me. I may not be able to show it. It worked. Let's see, here, let's do this one. Oh, no.
We're not that again.
While we're getting something to eat, I'll try to fix this again so you can actually see. We had trouble with this. Yeah, it's not gonna let me do it. I will work on that so you can watch it while you're getting something to eat.
Witness it?
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing
Our
that.
loved ones through
But I want
text
us to
and
be able to
emails
get
or
some
social
eat,
media.
something to eat and
Communications
fellowship,
is
and
more
so you can
convenient
kind of
and
watch that since
consequently,
it's getting
many
late.
of us take the ease of
I
that
do have a
communication
flag
for
for
granted.
each one of you.
But during World War
Just
II,
to
the
say
only
thank you
connection
for your
people
service,
like
and I
my
know
mom
Father
and
can
dad
take a picture as
had
well.
while my father
But
was in
Tony,
Europe
I'm gonna
before
dig
he
you.
Let me take
was remiss.
We took mail for granted, and that line of communication was all that generation had. And when you talk about it today, when you say mail, it
Tony?
really doesn't have that same impact.
Tony, please.
But when you put yourself back in that time period and understand that that was their only way of communicating.
All right.
I used
And
to see
Steve
movies
and
when
Pat?
Steve, Benny?
it just went over me then. Now when I see
Thank you
the
so
movies
much.
where they say mail call, I just get all choked up because I said,
I take a picture.
these are the letters that these ladies help get
All right.
to these guys that are in
Pat?
these foxholes up front.
Thank you so much for
dying.
your service.
Part of the problem was they were not looking at how.
Thank you.
And then if all of you could come up and
Yes,
take
please
a,
come up
yeah.
here, please. Take pictures.
I don't think they understood the
That
concept
is-
of morale. Eisenhower throughout his career was very focused on the morale of his troops. He was
Silva?
very, very, like, the
You have your flag, you left your flag. Where's your flag?
on paper.
Put your flag with us, over.
As well. So he understood the need
It's
to.
dark. I had to lower the
Our
flag.
guys in touch with their family at home. Like,
You'll have to
if
get a
we
little
keep that
closer.
lifeline going, we can keep them motivated to keep fighting.
Yes.
Come in a little closer so we can all, let me go behind here.
Morale is gonna be
One,
low,
two,
and
three,
loved ones on the
four.
hard front
All
are
right.
not receiving.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We've got apple pie, we've got chicken. Steve told me about Tootsie Rolls during World War II. M&Ms, I guess, was something that was eaten as well, so.
However,
Good
this
luck.
personality
Yeah.
is